Salutations. I'm excited to have you join us for Self-Improvement Month, our Reign and Rule series. I'm excited about today's guest. I'm excited about every guest, but I'm really excited about today's guest. I'm going to share how we met, but first, before I do any of that, I want to formally introduce my friend, my brother, Sergeant Linwood B. He currently serves as an Aerospace Medical Service Apprentice instructor. That's a whole lot, y'all. In the United States Air Force. His current duty station is at the Medical and Education Training Campus at Joint Base San Antonio, Fort Sam, Houston, Texas. He arrived at AMSA in November 2018 to begin his 4-year commitment. His main responsibility includes mentoring and instructing 1,400 students annually, as they complete a rigorous 544 credit hour program, receiving foundational, didactic, and hands-on training towards becoming a future Air Force medical technician. Now, from November 2012 to August 7th, 2017, Sergeant Fields worked as a medical technician in the family practice and flight operational clinics, respectively. He transferred to Joint Base San Antonio Military Medical Center, where he worked as a medical technician shift leader for telemetry intensive care unit from 2017 to 2018. As a Dallas, Texas native, Sergeant Fields graduated from Judge Bearford Sanders Law Magnet Center at Townview Magnet Center in May of 2007. 2007. He's old, y'all, in essence. That's what he's saying. He's
because the best year of all time was class 2007. So it is.
Prior to his enlistment into the United States Air Force in March 2012, he graduated from Southern Methodist University in 2011. Pony up. That's it, right?
Yeah.
Okay. In 2011, with a bachelor's degree in political science. While serving his country, Sergeant Fields received his master's degree in biblical and theological studies from Dallas Theological Seminary in Dallas, Texas. Sergeant Fields plans to pursue commission Air Force chaplain upon his commission of his current duty. He has used his social media platforms as an instrument to inspire and encourage others through spiritual and life-enriching messages. So these messages really be funny, y'all. And you never know what you're going to get, which is what I absolutely love about your social media. So the first question I just want to ask you, do you understand the impact that your social media has had on people?
Well, Tiadra, I think within probably, especially within the past year with everything that's been going on in our world with the pandemic, and then as well as all the civil unrest with the deaths of George Floyd, just among the countless names of those individuals who have been victims of police brutality. It's all about finding balance in regards of not beating around the bush. I definitely wanted to be in a space to where, with all the loss that was going on, both whether it's a family member or someone close due to COVID or complications from COVID, or someone that lost someone, or someone that lost a family member or someone that they knew, a friend, a colleague, to senseless police brutality, or finding themselves in situations to where they fear for their lives. To be able to just not only just paint the truth as it is, not only just from my perspective, but from those that I can sympathize with and I can relate to. But just to remind those, especially whether they are a fully committed Christian, to those that are still trying to find their way in their young Christian walk, or even if they haven't made that decision to follow Christ, just paint a picture of, yes, the times are dire, the times are uncertain, but our God is still on high. Our God is still in control of any and everything, and all that is happening is serving a bigger purpose. So it's definitely been very enlightening within the past year, but I've had people, especially since I started this, I think, almost 13 years ago when I first started sharing inspirational posts, first on my Facebook and then transitioned to my Twitter when Twitter was still a thing. And now Instagram. And then wherever I share my Instagram, I occasionally share it to Facebook to just give that pep that individuals need, including myself, because most of the posts I'm talking to myself, but I already know that there might be someone else that may need that message that I'm trying to instill in myself. Why not share with someone else and be that pep that they need, regardless of what season that they're in?
And I'm glad you said that because we started following each other on Instagram.
Yes.
And that's what your messages was for me. Like I knew I can expect your post to either be something spiritually enriching, or it could just be something funny that'll be like, I really needed that today. And that's why I asked you that. Did you really understand like the magnitude of your message that you're doing? Because you're literally out here transforming lives. Like that's why I started following you, because I'm like, this is on to something, which was very interesting because I started following you and we both were in Dallas, Texas. But when you were stationed in California, we used to hook up for our car concerts, and you'll show us all around. You'll show us all around California, different spots and stuff. So I wanted to just honor that, like in this moment, because a lot of times when we post, sometimes it's not intentional, but your posts have always seemed intentional. So that's why I asked you, did it always start off like that? Was that always the intention, or did it just grow into that?
It grew into that because initially I wanted my social media to serve a purpose. And this started back when Facebook was still early on and trying to find, it's not where it is now as it was back then in 2007, 2008, when I first started college. And I just allowed it to be a place where if someone needed to hear something, may not be directly from my mouth, but they saw it and they could apply it to whatever season that they're in or whatever circumstances that they're going through. It's just, I feel you because I'm not perfect. So why keep some of that wisdom to myself to where I can go ahead and share it with other people that need to hear the same message or need that laugh, because things have literally not gone their way for however long it may have been, and that laugh just changed their entire mood to where it uplifted them. And that's basically how it's developed into what I feel is something definitely influential, which was never the intent. But hearing people's feedback, whether it's underneath my post or sending me direct messages or sending me comments on my Facebook and just saying, hey, man, I'm reposting this. I'm stealing it. So you're still gonna give you credit, but most of the time I'm letting these people know, hey, I find these. Like some of these are most of them are not even my personal. It's just ones that I come across. I still give credit to those that share it initially, because those are not my thoughts, because I don't want to be accused for any plagiarism either. But there are some things that I've come across where I tailored it to my experience and then share it, to where that's when I do a deviation between Lenny B's reflections, where I'm just reflecting on what someone else has shared or whether it's a Bible verse, and then Lenny B's thoughts, where, hey, this is my mindset. This is what I've been thinking based off of a sermon that I heard from Dr. Tony Evans, or from Michael Todd of Transformation Church, or from Brian L. Carter, Concord Church, whomever I come across, especially when I'm in a mood to where I'm trying to find my center, trying to find my balance, because that's the one thing that I'm constantly in my growth space, because it's just, I feel that it's never ending, because I'm always in a position to receive and learn and be enriched and to find whatever he has for me. And I already know that that process is never going to end, because as a child of his, growth is not optional. It's a necessity.
Right. Like you have to grow.
Right.
So the thing that I love about you and watching your journey is like you're very candid. You're candid about your faith. You're candid about your strides. You're candid about your struggles, the triumphs that you made, experience. Like you're candid about it all. So what we now see is like the fulfillment of faith, like you actually living it out, walking it out, and then talking it out. So, what are some steps, like practical steps, that we can take to live a life of faith?
Well, one thing I had to learn was, as you know, my first marriage didn't work out. And that was very emotionally draining, not because it was my ex-wife or anything. I had to take accountability for my role in why the marriage didn't work out. So I had to get off my high horse and do that self-reflection that a lot of us are not willing to do, because we are afraid to actually see our true selves in the mirror and see all the cracks and all of the layers that we have to pull back until we finally see our unnatural, true self. So there are a couple rules, a couple principles that I found vital in trying to recover not only myself but to move forward. So first thing was, I had to be very transparent with myself. I had to realize, yes, this is where I messed up. This is where I could have done things differently. But I can't do anything about it now. I can take the lesson learned. I can move forward if I find myself in a similar situation, whether it's with my fiance or a coworker, someone that I don't have a relationship with. It's just interacting with people. Now I know how to approach it, because now I'm starting to see things through other people's perspective instead of just limiting it to my perspective. So thinking outside the box, thinking outside my own box, my own comfortability, being able to step out into the unknown and realize that things are not always going to go smoothly. And just understanding that by acknowledging where I need to grow, it's only going to push me into the unknown that's going to be beneficial to me and for whomever is going to be the beneficiary to the sacrifice that I give. And then another thing that I had to realize was I had to forgive myself for my shortcomings. I had to forgive myself for my shortcomings, not just within my marriage, but in trauma that I did not deal with prior to my marriage. Trauma that affected my marriage, that got rebuilt in my marriage, to where I still have baggage from my childhood that I still didn't deal with. So I had to make the decision, what am I going to do with it? Am I just going to wallow in my despair and just be depressed and find myself in that low place of darkness to where, shoot, Tiedra, people were seeing in my post that I was sharing at the time that I wasn't right, that I wasn't in the right space, because I had dozens of people reach out to me like, Linwood, you good? Because your post, and it's painting the mood that, we're concerned, because I was just posting how I was feeling. And as much as I tried to put on that mask as if everything was fine, it wasn't working. So definitely have to take accountability for my actions and be vulnerable enough to get help, which I did. And then also just being authentically myself and realizing this is who I am. I need to make sure that there's no other person like me. Right. So what I'm going to do with the gifts that I have, with the passions that has been instilled in me. What am I going to do with it? Because me just sitting in a dark room by myself, just depressed and angry and sad, going through the whole emotions and the whole grieving process of not only just the end of my first marriage, but just trying to find my way. Like, what was I going to do with that? So that's basically where God led me. So those are the two things: being unapologetically yourself, taking accountability for your shortcomings. And then my third one.
What's the third one?
Not controlling the narrative.
Tell us more. Tell us more.
Oh, not controlling the narrative is probably the biggest lesson I had to learn. Was I was always trying to tailor the outcome, whether it was in my marriage, in a relationship previous to my marriage, to where I never wanted to give that person the option to choose. I wanted to paint the story to where they didn't have the full picture. So they couldn't make the best decision for themselves to choose what was best for themselves. So I wouldn't look bad. So I can come out on top. So that was my ego.
So God had to tell you, sit down.
Sit down. Like, the thing is, this is not what I'm giving you. You found yourself in this situation. This is the outcome. Deal with it. Deal with all the ugliness. Deal with the pushback. Deal with the anger from that person. But give them the right to choose what is best for them by allowing them to see the entire story, by allowing to hear all the facts, not just the half truths, but every single fact in that situation, and let them decide what is best for them. That one took me a long time to actually apply.
So let's talk about how all of these play a role into how God tried to teach us and mold us to ultimately seek him, love him, and trust him. Because a lot of times we try to do God's job and our job, and we go to him with our mask on. We go to him not taking accountability, and we go to him trying to control the narrative when he's the author and the finisher. So how did God deal with you as you were going through all of this?
Well, he literally had to break me down to my lowest point, to where I saw myself as that 4-year-old version of myself, just looking up with my beady eyes, just looking forward to that good cry and thinking that he's going to cuddle me and, pacify me. And no, he didn't. He told me, I'm going to give you exactly what you want, and it's going to backfire because I already told you this is not what you need. I'm going to give you what you want, but if you're going to continue to tell me what you need, I'm going to give it to you, and I'm going to let it play out so you can realize your merit, your perspective has nothing on him. Nothing on him. Or he's going to give me the complete opposite to make me appreciate what I had, what I've been given. Because my situation could have been a lot worse, completely different. But because he gave me those two alternatives, I had to sit down and just do the work and actually be more intentional with my prayer time, be more intentional with my devotional time, actually going out and actually finding a church home, which I did once I got back to San Antonio, and using my gifts. I've been told that, especially by my best friend Nucleus, that once I find myself in a position where I can give more time to the ministry than my part-time capacity, he could see me as a pastoral care minister, playing the baptisms, going out to the hospital to visit the sick and bedridden, and just being able to provide them that comfort and making sure that the pastor's taken care of, or going out to represent represent him on his behalf and everything, and being someone that is going to be intentional with not only representing the church, but most importantly, preaching the word, because that's our first obligation to God, is making sure that we make his son known, and that it is through his son in which we do have a relationship with him, and that separation has now been paid for. Like that's the bottom line.
Give us a word real fast. Give us a word. Okay. So what do you think are the benefits and the ramifications of not living a faith-fulfilled life? And you kind of answered it in the last question. When you was like, God gonna give you what you want if you keep saying it, although you may not need it.
Right.
So what are the benefits when you live a faith-filled life? When you look at yourself now, like this 2021 version of Linwood compared to the Linwood that was trying to control the narrative, what are the benefits?
I know that, well, first, I know that he's on time, he's intentional. That's first and foremost. That everything has served its purpose. Where I felt like that, hey, I don't know why I had to go through that situation, but God already foresaw why it needed to happen. 1. 2, it gives you peace. Even in the midst of a lot of uncertainty, I have peace. I know that God is going to reveal something in the midst of the uncertainty, in the midst of the animosity, even in the midst of frustration, whether it's at work, whether it's dealing with people. And granted, I love dealing with people, but there are just some people that we don't click. And I have to remind myself that I am a Christian man, and I don't want to go back to Lenny B from Oak Cliff. And we don't need that. And
we don't want them problems.
Yeah, we don't want them problems. But the benefit is being able to experience that peace and realizing that in spite of the troubles, in spite of the setbacks, in spite of the disappointment, especially the disappointment, the hurt, the anger, you have to make the decision to trust God to use that to heal you. And the thing is, where we get frustrated and confused with God, no, not confused, angry with God. It's okay to be angry. It's okay to show normal emotion to a God who is big enough to handle it. Like, it's okay. That's what a lot of people fail to realize. God gave us emotions for a reason. Like, he already knows how we feel. Sometimes he just wants to hear it from us, even though he already says that I already know everything that comes to your mind before you even think it. But he wants us to actually talk to him, to yell at him. But once we do, we need to leave it there. We need to not repeat what God already knows and what we already expressed, and just move on. And just let him use that hurt to heal, which means in the midst of our healing, we can pass that testimony on to somebody else. That's the benefits. The ramifications, you're going to feel empty. You're going to feel unsure. You're going to feel unpurposeful. You're going to feel like you are just wandering around trying to, why am I here? Like, yeah, I got this decent job. I got a roof over my head, but shoot, anybody can get that. Like,
you're still not fulfilled.
Why am I here? Like, unfulfilled, like feeling insignificant.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. So, how do you reign and rule in every aspect of your life? Like, you shared with us your career aspirations and the work that you have done for us in America. So thank you for your service. You also shared with us that the lessons that you learned from your previous marriage, and this year you're getting married again. So we have that. Then you discuss your healing, like you discussed your healing, transparency, and you actually making that impact through social media. So how do you continue to reign and rule in all of these areas? Because that's not easy.
No, it's not. And one thing, especially within the past year, I've had to learn is as much as and you know this firsthand, I have a lot of opinions, especially about how things have been handled in this country the previous 4.5, 5 years.
Duly noted. We talk about that all the time.
Yes. However, it's speaking up unapologetically, especially when it comes to social justice and not allowing the opinions of people who have not necessarily lived the experience, trying to justify or trying to downplay my feelings and that I shouldn't feel a certain way, even though I find myself in situations where literally every single day, even though I wear this uniform, the most patriotic thing I could ever wear, military uniform, the fact that I leave my house and I have to pray every single day that I make it safely back to my apartment, and that within my own apartment, that I feel safe.
Yeah.
After going out and working and training the future medics within the United States Air Force. But at the end of the day, I'm still a Black man. First, even though I should be a Christian man. Black is just an adjective, like that's just an extra identifier, but I am a Christian man first. Mm-hmm. But unfortunately, society doesn't see that. Mm-hmm. So being able to rule and reign in every aspect of my life is being unapologetically myself in every aspect of my life.
And then the New Orleans beat drop.
Yes, and understanding that everybody's not going to understand, and that's fine. But I'm willing to have that conversation to where, yes, I don't want to be everybody's token Black guy to where I can educate you. No, but I'm willing to have that conversation where I can learn from you as well, because it is a two-way street.
So we both can sit at the table.
Yes, we both can sit at the table. We can have those difficult discussions so we can better understand one another's experience. But I'm not going to downplay your experience because you lived a certain way, and I'm not going to undermine your struggles and your challenges. Just like I pray that you don't undermine mine and how my life has been lived. Because granted, been stereotyped, been underestimated. That's fine, but it wasn't based on my merit. Because against anybody, shoot, I'm pretty. I can stand on my own 2 feet. But being disqualified because of how I look, based on my skin color, that's where I take issue with. Right. Because on any other given day, I should qualify for any position if I fulfill the credentials because of my merit, not because of my ethnicity or my skin tone. Yeah. So with that aspect, it's just being unapologetic.
So you're not afraid to one thing to help you reign and rule is the fact that you're not afraid to have those uncomfortable conversations.
No, not when it's necessary. Yes, because of my position in the Air Force, I have to be mindful of, but times have changed to where now, as we saw earlier this year, there was an attack on one of the most, there was an attack on the Capitol building in Washington, D.C. Yeah. I used to work there when I was in high school. I know how easily it is to get into that building and not have the appropriate support in order to protect it. we saw how vulnerable one part of our government was, and that it could have ended differently if it wasn't for the men and women that took an oath to protect that building. Both whether it's the National Guard or the Capitol Police officers. And then on top of that, people are so caught up in trying to fulfill false truths that they have become delusional. And of course, some people say I'm delusional.
Yeah, right. So
even though I'm a political science major, and this is what I've learned all my life, even before I went to college. Like, I was correcting people in the barbershop, and I got witnesses saying I was correcting people how the impeachment process was supposed to run as an 8-year-old.
Wow.
And yet I'm still educating people now at 32. Granted, I haven't been really that excited about the political process the last 4 to 5 years.
Right, understandably so.
But I know what I'm talking about. And I'm willing to admit when I'm wrong and that I need to educate myself more when it comes
to talk about this, because a lot of people see that if we're going to be authentic, we're going to be and operate from a spirit of transparency. I lost my thought there, but we always want to talk about Jesus. Like, Jesus, he came, he saved, he was crucified, he died for our sins. But let's talk about Jesus and justice.
So here's the thing. Jesus sat with sinners. He never condemned them for their lifestyle. He didn't agree with it, but he never degraded them.
Come on.
He's willing to sit at the same table as murderers and deceivers and adulterers, whatever the case may be, regardless of your background in the offense. He was willing to sit at the same table of those who were with various amount of sin. But yet there was only one person who lived a life that was perfect. And that was him, the only person.
Right.
So until someone can reach that same level of holiness, which I don't see anytime soon.
Haven't seen that.
Then we need to show each other grace and be willing to extend it.
Come on.
Be willing to say, hey, I don't know what else to say about this. I'm just going to keep my mouth shut until I'm more educated. Or, hey, I'm just going to keep my mouth shut altogether and just listen.
That part.
Because listen, yes, listen, not to respond, but to actually comprehend so you can give a more educated and more effective response.
I want to thank you. Like, this was so much fun. Like, you really dropped some real jewels. I appreciate you. You already know I got mad love for you. I cannot wait to celebrate you and Ashley walking down the aisle and becoming one. But I also cannot wait to see all that God has for you. There is a calling on your life, and I'm excited to be amongst the people that's in the crowd, just watching, giving my like, giving my share, and sending my love. I love you. I thank you so much for joining me and saying yes.
Yes. Well, I definitely had a great time being able to come on this platform and just share everything that's happened and how it continues to be a blessing to me to step into the purpose that God had for me, even in the midst of my brokenness and trying to make me whole again. In the midst of it, I was able to continue to be unapologetic and be authentic in whatever season God had me in at the time, in order to continue to give and do what was best for the people. And as being a reflection of him on this side of heaven, and being a vessel, being an instrument. And I don't apologize for that. So